Every day, Americans live their lives unaware that there are sinister forces at work all around them. Idolizing the elite, infatuated with their favorite celebrities, obsessed with pop culture, entertainment, and social media, unknowingly playing their part in a twisted game of mindless oppression. Being told what to think, how to feel, who to vote for, and all the while they are none the wiser that most, if not all of it, is a lie designed to control the masses. President Harry S. Truman assumed office as the 33rd President of the United States less than 4 months after his predecessor, President Franklin D. Roosevelt, who died of a brain hemorrhage on April 12, 1945, just 80 days into his fourth term as president, making FDR the longest-serving U.S. president in American history. On 6 August 1945, President Harry Truman made the harrowing decision to detonate the first atomic bomb on Hiroshima, Japan. Then, on 9 August 1945, he decided to drop the second and last atomic bomb used in wartime on Nagasaki, effectively marking the end of World War II. With growing tensions now rising between the United States and the USSR, on 26 July 1947, President Truman signed the National Security Act into law. This act gave birth to what would be known later as the Commission of the Central Intelligence Agency, or CIA, known colloquially as the Agency. The agency was tasked with gathering, processing, and analyzing national security information from around the world, primarily through the use of human intelligence and conducting covert action through its Directorate of Operations. Unlike the Federal Bureau of Investigation, or the FBI, which is a domestic security service, the CIA has no law enforcement function. It is mainly focused on intelligence gathering overseas, with only limited domestic intelligence collection, and it is also supposed to carry out covert action at the direction of the President. The CIA, however, has been the subject of several controversies, including but not limited to its alleged use of torture, domestic wiretapping, propaganda, and alleged human rights violations and drug trafficking. In 2022, a CIA domestic surveillance program, known commonly as Section 702, was uncovered that had not been subject to congressional oversight. This program allowed for the warrantless search, seizure, collection, and analysis of any and all data obtained from tech companies. This includes things like phone calls, text messages, social media messaging, and emails. This means that in essence, tech companies like Facebook, Google, X, formerly known as Twitter, and Microsoft are compelled to submit these communication records to U.S. intelligence agencies, including the FBI, CIA, and NSA. This power was wielded most notably by President Barack Hussein Obama during the 2016 presidential election, in which his administration provably, knowingly, intentionally, and maliciously spied on President Donald Trump's presidential campaign. But that's a topic for another day. Most critics argue that this unregulated abuse by our intelligence agencies must be reformed, as it poses a very realistic danger to American citizens. This is just one example of these agencies acting outside the bounds of governmental accountability. Unaccountable for decades, these agencies provide themselves free rein over blackmailing whistleblowers and protecting the most powerful and wealthy among us to achieve their own ends. This is dangerous and unethical, and I have to say, after uncovering some of this information, I tend to agree. On 22 November 1963, the 35th President of the United States, John F. Kennedy, was horrifically shot in his head and killed. This was done allegedly by a lone gunman named Lee Harvey Oswald. The tragic assassination of JFK was definitely the defining moment that the idea of a deep state made more and more sense. And at the time, this idea was still in its infancy, as the American public could not yet so early concede the idea that their government could possibly be so corrupt as to execute an American president. But there is one voice that rang like a bell throughout the icy air following the aftermath of this horrifying event. None other than President Harry S. Truman himself, the founder and commissioner of the CIA. He vehemently expressed his opposition to the CIA's role in the government in a 1963 column in the Washington Post, and he was quoted in the article as saying, first, quote, "I never would have agreed to the formulation of the Central Intelligence Agency back in '47 if I had known it would become the American Gestapo. Second, quote, it has become an operational and at times a policy-making arm of the government. Third, quote, It was never meant to be injected into peacetime cloak and dagger operations. Fourth, quote, the CIA has frequently been embarrassing to this country in the last decade. And finally, quote, the agency should return to its basic job of gathering and assessing intelligence for the use of the policymakers. At the time, JFK was on the rise as the world's most effective and charismatic leader. A former lieutenant junior grade in the United States Navy and a true hit with the ladies, John F. Kennedy was a beacon of hope for most Americans. Enacting changes swiftly for the middle class and working towards ending civil rights inequality for minorities made him a highly qualified and well-rounded leader. But if everyone loved him, and he brought hope to tens of millions around the world on promises of a better future, a more transparent government, devoid of corruption and secrecy, that worked on behalf of the American citizens who appointed them, and he was seemingly acting quickly towards those ends, then who and why would anyone want to end his life?